Greetings of the day, everyone. This is Rohit, your host for the session today. I head the HR and payroll practice for Ramco. And today, along with me, I have two of my colleagues, James Hoal, another veteran in payroll industry based out of our Melbourne office. And I have
Thanks,
who's a
Rohit.
payroll specialist with us. And right now is based in Chennai, holed up in Chennai rather. Otherwise, she's generally found at the airports because of the frequent travel that she does. Right. So I guess we can see participants joining in from various parts of the world, and it's great to have such an exciting audience there with us today. Coming back on the session, while we will also discuss something that you've already heard in numerous other webinars around the payroll challenges or the HR related challenges or the disruptions that we all faced due to the current situations. We will also try and focus on and give you a sneak peek on real life solutions that can possibly address some of these challenges. As we all know, the HR and payroll as a subject area has been evolving very, very rapidly in last couple of years. But I guess there has never been a better time to focus on a complete digital transformation. And maybe the current situation is forcing us to accelerate that process. And I guess we all saw in the recent times how the reporting to work was disrupted, first because of the lockdown, and then some of the members fell sick or they were taking care of their families, and that really led to some bit of flexibility in the work schedules that was required out there. And when people were working from their home, they were not able to access all the tools and documents that they would normally be able to access, especially if you have an on-premise solution out there. And the processes that really required physical presence, like validating physical documents or verifying physical sign-offs, definitely took a backseat. And then there were perennial problems around missing data, timesheets, their accuracy, and they're not coming on time. And we have to process temporary or emergency pay cycle based on the past values to make sure that the people are paid on time. And then we are worried about their retrospective adjustments later on. And last but not the least, we did have all the governments across the globe come up with ever-changing regulatory requirements or tax SOPs in order to help the businesses and employees. And that also sort of put pressure on the payroll team to quickly update their payroll calculation and make sure that the new rules were incorporated in the calculations and the employees were getting paid accurately and on time. All of these changes, I believe, definitely raised the debate again around whether you need to outsource your payroll or keep it in house. And some of the forums that I've been a part of, this debate all of a sudden picked up steam again. And there were a whole lot of discussions around what is the right way of carrying that payroll. On that note, I would want to invite James here and seek his views on what he believes is the right model, is a right fit, or how does the industry see this entire model evolving in future, especially given the current challenges and situations that we are facing because of the pandemic. Over to you, James.
Yes, and thanks very much, Rohit. A pleasure to be here and to share my knowledge and experience. So I think this is one of those questions, and it certainly is always been a debate around this, around being in-house payroll versus managed services. But I think it's certainly coming back into focus of late again. I'm actually seeing 2 out of 3 current customer engagements really looking at focusing on moving towards an outsourced model. And this is probably an increase based on typically what I would see is skewed more a little bit towards in-house processing. And there's probably a number of reasons why I'm seeing this as such. So it probably is partly based on the fact of what size of organization you might be, and also what sort of geographic spread, how many countries you might operate in, and really trying to understand that the more countries that you operate in, the more challenges you have around managing all that. And probably I think some of the key challenges of late is really around compliance. And I think that the massive shift we've seen lately in the regulatory space primarily due to COVID-19 across numerous countries, has been very, very challenging for many of those organisations and vendors as well. And I think if we take some examples here, for example, in Australia, we had the JobKeeper changes, which was some major work done, and also a number of additional tweaks along the way, and probably still more to come. And we also had previously some annualised salary changes back in March. And I think there's a lot of other changes around the region. So I think not only do I see the number of legislative changes increasing, but also the pace of change. And I think this is certainly having a large impact on an organisation's decision to really start looking at outsourcing their payroll. And probably the second thing I'd say, that the overall strategy around what the organisation would adopt, and sometimes they're a bit more or less open to outsourcing. But I think really it's still a tough decision for organisations to really decide on what is the best approach, in-house or outsourced. And I think that you also got to say there's actually no right or wrong reason, but you have got to give various considerations to probably the cost, the complexity, the number of geographies you're running in, etc. And I think that these ought to come into the big sort of decision there. So I think that what I'm sort of seeing as a general overall overriding statement right now is that really what's dominating the current decision process is really the whole adoption of a low risk approach.
Absolutely, James. And I can see people joining in from Singapore, Malaysia, India, Australia. Please feel free to chip in with your views and your suggestions also onto this question. But coming back onto the brief that you just mentioned, James, do you see there is a necessity to have an interoperable option out here? And maybe the customers or the payroll providers get that power to choose between an in-house model or an outsourced model based on how the business dynamics pan out. So is that something that you're seeing as an emerging option that
Sure.
you need?
I think it's a bit of a trend. Quite often you sort of see that sort of conversation go, well, we're looking at in-house, but we also want the outsourcing model, or vice versa. But I think definitely interoperability to be able to move from an in-house model to an outsourcing one, and I think and also vice versa, without causing any huge disruption, huge risk and cost, etc. And I think that traditionally what's happened in the past is people have actually shifted providers, but also had to shift platforms, which has actually then led to an enormous risk, cost, effort, etc. for an organisation, and they certainly are fairly adverse to that. So I think that this is certainly something we should take more into account. But I think that overall that the organisations need to look at some of the other aspects, perhaps around efficiency, and maybe enhance the actual employee's experience in this as well. And I think they're really trying to adopt some new technologies here around being able to provide that to the employees is certainly a major consideration of going towards more of a modern system. So I think whatever approach your organisation takes, I think just to back that up, the underlying platform should be able to be robust, interchangeable between the two modes, and to also minimise the risk and cost in the future. Thanks, Rohit.
Yeah, I think completely agree with you, James. And I think let me probably add my bit out here. While the technology platform has to be really robust, I think it's also important the extent of the coverage of this technology platform. See, most of the organizations would probably have an aggregator model where they would still rely on an in-country provider to do their gross to net computation. But if all the countries' gross to net computation is on a single platform, I think that probably makes a kill and makes it easy for the customer to switch between various models based on their business dynamics. So I guess I completely agree. A solid technology foundation is the key, especially in the current situations.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Interestingly, I also caught another important word from your brief, James, and that was around compliance. And I think we as payroll professionals all over the globe are sort of worried about the compliance on a ever going basis. And the current situation definitely posed much more complexity than ever earlier. And with all these statutory requirements coming into the picture because of the COVID situation, the task became much more daunting. So maybe on this note, Shruthi, I would want to seek your views on how do you think that entire compliance aspect can be made much more seamless, much more transparent, and if at all possible, automated?
Sure. So, Rohit, compliance is indeed a nightmare for many organizations, especially the large multinationals with its workforce spread across the globe, right? So, having said so, handling these compliances at Ramco has been a piece of cake for us, thanks to our payroll bureau, which actually comprises of country-specific tax experts in-house, a few independent consultants, and also the big four consulting firms. So this team basically ensures that our product is up to date with statutory changes across all the 45 plus countries that we service today. In addition, we also use a compliance monitoring tool, which is again provided by one of the big four consulting firms, and we use this to monitor updates and track our compliances. So what happens is basically the member firms across all the countries push the statutory updates onto the tool real time, which we then work upon and track to closure. So this tool helps us update compliances proactively rather than addressing them reactively. So, having talked about the tool, let me just give you a quick glimpse of how it makes
Mhm.
our life easy.
Would love to.
So while I'm just bringing up the tool, what you see here is basically, visibility across countries. At any given point of time, you can see what is the updated compliance. And you can also see that whenever there is a new statutory change, it automatically reflects in the compliance. So you can basically filter by country. So I'm just picking Australia here as an example. You can also filter by state, or in case of China, for instance, by province. And it also allows you to track by compliance category. So if, for instance, you take the JobKeeper payments that recently went through an update, right, in Australia, so you can
Yeah.
basically filter by category as well. And in it also has an inbuilt tool, so you can see there's a compliance owner and a reviewer that can be assigned to each of the requirements. You can pretty much sort by criticality, which again is based on the cost of non-compliance, and you can see which action item is pending with which team, as per the legend here. So this was sort of a summary of the entire tool. It can do a lot more, but I think what I wanted to highlight here is that it's real time,
Mhm.
and it gives you a slice and dice functionality. It allows you to drill down. You can pick up any latest update that has come. The moment you open and look at the dashboard, it will show you the real time status.
Well, that certainly sounds interesting, and especially at the leadership level, where you are responsible for multi-country compliances. I think this certainly gives overview of your percentage compliance across any country that you're operating on, and looks like you can drill down to the last level to see what are those areas that you're still not compliant on, and you need to incorporate that into the product. And looks like there's also a tight integration with the product team so that the transparency is maintained at all the levels.
Absolutely.
Certainly sounds interesting, but Shruti, how sustainable was this? After this sudden outbreak of compliance changes due to COVID, and how was all of that managed at a rapid pace in the product? Some view there would help.
Sure, Rohit. Thankfully, it was business as usual for us. In fact, we had like a total of 35 changes across 17 countries, all of which we developed and released to customers on time in the last 4 months. So the product is homegrown and it's built on a single code base. So this enables us to go live faster with our changes. So being a unified platform across countries, our payroll engine is global by design, but it's local by compliance. So we have a standard global framework which we then localize for each country. So it is this
Mhm.
framework which basically allows us to reduce our cycle time to go live. And to sort of
That sounds
sum it up, what I would I think say is that the product is highly robust and configurable. And in fact, most of these changes were configurations for us and not ground up development.
all right. Thanks, Shruti. I see a question popping up by Alex. Hi, Alex has been one of our partners, and his question is: does that compliance tool visible to customer or partners as well, Shruti?
So yes, in fact, the tool is quite flexible. You can extract reports, or all of these dashboards can be extracted pretty much. So while most of our customers today are happy with the reports and dashboards that we share with them, there's definitely, yes, an option to enable this for our customers as well.
Sure. Maybe not the direct access because of your licensing requirements, but sure, a dump across any country can be provided to our customers as well as partners. Uh, Great. So, Shruti, coming back on our track on how easy was it to bring about those changes? While I do hear that you said it was a piece of cake as far as the product incorporation was concerned, but there would have been instances where the configuration had to be done by the customer because the things were changing so fast, and especially when there were new pay taxes that were involved, which you had to configure, or also the flexibility that you were giving to the employees in terms of their work schedules. So there would have been a lot of overtime or bonus payout situations, which were unique. How was that addressed, and how could customer not rely on the product vendor and be self-reliant on that stuff?
That's an interesting question, Rohit. I've always seen customers asking, how can I do things myself? So it's
Hmm.
definitely important for customers to be empowered to make these changes on their own. So what we have done, Rohit, is that the product offers a lot of inbuilt configurators, and to address all these, customer-specific policies, pretty much around payroll, overtime, leave, and things of that sort. So these configurators basically empower customers to set up their own policies using front-end screens, and there's absolutely no technical intervention in there. So let me just explain this with an example. So the scenario that we're going to see here is where customer wants to set up a special service bonus based on the years of experience. So all the customer needs to do is basically define a pay element, which will say, let's say, special bonus service, and then set it up using the computation that they need to process. So here, for instance, up to 5 years, it would be 20% of the total salary, and more than 5 years would be 30%. So these configurations, you can also assign a minimum or a maximum cap to all of this. And these are all effective dated. You can make any changes anytime with a new effective period. And this kind of configuration can be done for a whole lot of HR parameters, as you can see here. Like, a cost of living allowance for based on location, or maybe a car fuel reimbursement based on the grade or designation. So these kind of requirements are, as simple as just setting it up in a screen. And again, as you see, it's all done in front of us. There's been absolutely no, back end technical work.
Good to see that, and especially Shruti, when it's involving people like myself who've left coding long time back. It certainly gives much more ease of configuration because everything is driven from the front end, and people who just know the functional aspect can still go ahead and make those changes out there. So thanks for that, Shruti. Uh, James, coming back to you, another concern that I heard across the sectors was that during the sudden lockdown that happened, people wanted a view of what's the status of their payroll, and what's happening around any pending task, so on and so forth. And especially, it became much more serious when some of the local regional payroll processors were unable to show up because of the lockdown or because of some situation at their end. And the central payroll teams wanted to get a view and get some kind of a control there to see that A, they get the visibility, and B, they are also able to finish some of those pending tasks so that we could still pay the employees on time and not delay their payouts. So, what's the role of automation around that, and how such a challenge can be addressed through the automation tools?
Sure, thanks, Rohit. And I think this is really underlying the whole drive towards digital transformation, how to ensure that when people are in lockdown remote areas, they can still access and get updates from their system easily. And I guess that is certainly what I'm seeing as a driver out there. And systems need to be smarter to be able to support this, to actually support those users in these needs there. And they really need to start to actually work with the users out there and actually provide them with updates in real time and alert the users to any particular conditions that actually may require attention, instead of them having to go and sort of try and extract that from the system, but actually work with them a bit more. So really we're sort of seeing that there's different types of technology that we can start to harness and start to adopt, and the sort of technologies that we've sort of gone and actually spent some time investing is around RPA and chatbots, where we have actually microservice links to the system. So we actually start to give the leadership team and the payroll officers real-time visibility over the payroll processes, and payroll status, and any early detection of issues. But it's that ability to actually interrogate the system in real time there and be able to get information. So if we actually come back to a little bit into a minute or so, I'll actually show you a video on what I mean. On actually what I mean there. But the other factor is actually becoming important to also have good insights from the system itself directly, and really to make use of what we call actionable dashboards to highlight any sort of issues around, as I said before, early, and alert them of any particular conditions they may need to be aware of. So really the sort of dashboard that's available on our system there to the payroll team is actually available to anybody, whether or not they're actually in-house system or managed services customer, and you actually need to know the exact status and the details of that. So our hub is actually very interactive. You can actually see here all the individual countries that you would operate in, or different business units. We can actually display on one single page. We can actually give you an enormous amount of information right here on one single page to actually let you understand exactly what the current status is of the various payrolls that you're currently managing across your organization. If you actually look here on the left-hand side there, the actual panel there around the various statuses, readiness, various payroll information there, all color-coded there to actually provide you those sort of details there around what they might actually be in sort of color-coded format there, but also any outstanding tasks that you might need to actually view and actually see there as well. So these are all drillable. They're actually able to drill down and see exactly what's going on behind each of those, but essentially is actually giving you a huge amount of information right at your fingertips for each of your business units that you're currently operating in. You're also able to drop down and see different pay cycle calendars you operate in, and you're also able to see the current pay period, previous pay periods, whatever you need to see. So it's an enormous amount of information that's actually available to the payroll staff at their fingertips there as well. I'm actually able to drill right down, as I said before, directly right into the actual payroll hub itself, and as I said, actionable dashboard, and now I'm actually go directly into that particular payroll and actually see exactly what's going on. So the whole process of the whole principle around our design here is to make sure we have all the information available to the users right there at the fingertips. So on the left-hand side there, I've got all those conditions, all that information that's really going to be absolutely vital to make sure that your quality of your payroll is absolutely spot on. And any types of data there that aren't quite right, there's missing data there, or other conditions that might impact the quality of your payroll, it's about giving the information right there at your fingertips there. So you can straight away identify those people, send a quick notification there, and then straight away actually get updated. So it's all about the real-time information that you're able to action straight away on that as well. If you go into the next stage here, the pre-processing, again, it's about getting the system working for you, going the enormous number of readiness checks to actually start to interrogate the system, the data, and highlight any exceptions, any details associated with what the quality of the payroll may be. But again, I'm not having to go anywhere else. It's all sitting here, identifying if it's a critical error or maybe just a warning, but it's essentially right there at your fingertips as such. Now, the actual payroll process itself is actually very straightforward, but again, it gives you a huge amount of information there to really support you in your ability to run the payroll. And again, inbuilt sort of infographics there to sort of drive out some comparisons between current periods and last periods. And again, you can see some trends there as well. And down the bottom there, we're able to see quite a number of different variances or other highlighted conditions that again might give you some good indication. There's some issues or actual concerns around what some of the quality might be, and you're able to actually drill down into those and actually identify the people directly exactly what the actual issue is there. So it's all about having information there right at your fingertips. And then we go on to the and we're able to drill down even more into even further information there. So really, it's a huge amount of information there right available to the payroll users. If you go onto the other part of the system, we have here the Insights panel. So the Insights panel is really going to give you the ability to be able to get real-time information over your current payroll, but it can also look at previous payrolls and details and trends and analysis, cost variances, salary increases. But essentially, it gives you the ability there, as you get familiar with your data, to actually be able to spot those issues and get early detection of them as such. So thanks, Rohit. I think that's a very powerful tool in the hands of our operators.
Does look detailed, and I think the beauty is from a very high level, you can drill down to the last transaction and also initiate actions on it. Let me push the envelope further and put some more challenge to you, James.
Yep.
How about if I'm not able to access this application, would I still be able to get my updates? Would I still be able to get what's pending on certain payrolls through other mediums?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this goes back to the early point about being able to have a ability to see the status and actually see exactly what the issues are directly from the payroll system. I'd have to log into any system. So typically we've got the mechanism there we call our SPOC bot. I know that's not from Star Trek, but the SPOC is really a sort of a single point of contact, or really like a subject matter expert chatbot that's going to enable the sort of leadership team of the payroll to be able to quiz and actually get real-time statuses of that particular payroll. So they can actually say various details, what the actual current status is, etc. But it's actually purpose-built for our managed services clients that let them talk to the system directly, quiz it on the status, highlight any issues at all. And this is all as they're doing on the way to work. No, they're actually not even logged in the system. They're simply just talking to the system directly. I've actually got a quick video on this as well. So this is actually going through here. So it's actually got a chatbot that is talking directly to it, and he's saying, what's your current payroll status? What's your details? You can actually then show me further information around particular details, issues, etc. But you've got real-time connection to your system wherever you are. Very easy and very quick for the users to be able to use there as such. So really, I think that I hope that you saw a little bit of glimpse of some of the capability we have in the space there. And I'm certainly seeing a bit of an uptake of this technology within our customer base. Thanks, Ray.
That sounds really good, James. And I think the very fact that it's an intelligent payroll assistant rather than a payroll system. The only flip side that I see is you are continuously tagged along with the assistant, and I'm sure your wife's not going to be very happy about it, James. But certainly, I think an intelligent payroll assistant that's always tagging along with you. We have a couple of questions coming here, and I'll just take a pause to pick up one of the questions that I'm just seeing on my screen, and it's by Mr. Nagendra Surya. The question is, would the salary component change have an effect on employee salary history records? Interesting question. And Shruthi, since you brought the discussion about the configuration part, why don't I pose this question to you?
Sure, Rohit. So yes, basically, let me just explain this scenario. We have an option called back pay or arrear processing. So that is what would take care of these kind of requirements. So any retrospective changes or backdated changes can be made in the system. And based on the effective date of change, when the regular payroll runs, it would automatically process the back pay as well and pick up these changes that are backdated, and that would then get reprocessed.
Thanks, Shruti. Thanks for that, and it really helps. James, I'm going back onto your automation spin that you carved out, and are you geared up for more challenge? I'm going to throw up some next questions to you.
Bring it on.
All right. So, James, in the new normal, under this crisis, as I mentioned, people are looking at reducing their dependency on the workforce as much as possible. Obviously, it can't be done away with. But how much can complete dependence be avoided? And how can we have a backup plan just in case individual team members are not able to show up and some of the critical resources are not able to perform their duty? What can an intelligent payroll do out there? And is there some light that you can throw on that one?
Sure. Thanks, Ray, and absolutely thanks for the challenge. So I think this really falls into the whole spectrum of really discussing about automation and enablers as we call them. How do we enable people to get more information, more real time, more simply, more automated, etc. So I'm actually going to go through a couple of these sort of other options today, and I've been through a couple already. But I really do see that automation is absolutely a huge role to play in actually providing smarter systems and to assist payroll staff to actually leverage technology assist them and to really extend the capabilities of identifying issues, reducing errors, and cost of managing those errors. And I think that, as we all know, a few payroll errors, mismanaged or information that slips through there can take an enormous amount of time and effort to rectify. Then have huge consequences. So really, I think that we need to start looking at other tools to help us find out some of these little outlying issues, or find the needle in the haystack, or some of these conditions that might actually cause those errors. So really, with our harnessing some of our capability around AI and ML, we can actually provide an additional layer of checking and balancing and trying to find these outlying type things to really help the payroll staff to actually really try to minimize the risk of these errors occurring. And if they do occur, you can find them and actually fix them up before they actually become major issues there. So, and I think it's all about providing this technology to really help streamline your processes and start moving into what we call self-validating payrolls, where at the end of the day, we want the system to actually start really presenting us information, presenting us any highlighted issues, highlighted variances, and telling us what might be wrong with the system there, and really trying to take away what has been traditionally quite a extensive manual effort in so many of the systems out there. And I think they really need to start getting the system working for the payroll staff and the payroll team there to really start to highlight these real issues there. I've actually got a short video on this as well. We'll play that video. So this is a early development tool of some of our capabilities in this area. So it's a series of algorithms that actually go through and actually detect different types of conditions over different data sets there. You can actually go and detect, in this case here, we're going to set up the various pay periods. But the whole point of it there is using different methods, different algorithms to actually go and find some outlying. It's taking large data sets and large patterns of data to actually try and find that sort of information there, rather than sort of pouring through a whole lot of sort of manual reports there and trying to find variances, etc. It's actually having the system work for you and actually present that to you as such there. So that's a quick early view of what they might look like. So really what we're looking at down the track, maybe we're sort of starting to move into that, what we call a self-running payroll system. So it's getting a little bit sci-fi out there, but really we're starting to head towards the area, towards that day where the system might even say to the payroll user, would you like me to run the payroll? It's 10 o'clock on Monday morning. And you say, yes. It goes away, runs it there, comes back and says, oh, I found 3 errors. Do you want me to email them to you? Yes, please. But essentially, I mean, it does sound a little bit science fiction, but essentially we're actually not that far from that point there right now. So it really is, quite a powerful capability we're heading towards there as such. In another area there that we have there is we also started to harness other capabilities. We've got areas such as the OCR, or optical character recognition, and harnessing that with the AI and ML. So we've got the ability to scan documents, it's actually attached to AI and ML, to actually start to find different types of data sets that, again, that might be mismatching or missing or incorrect in some way. And this might be, sort of another way that we can actually try to help minimize some of those areas. And again, I've got a short video on this. So as we're going through here, it's using one of our chatbots here. This is on the WhatsApp platform, and essentially is an employee being guided to actually start presenting some information to upload in the system. So it could be a tax proofs in India, it could be a tax declaration in Australia, or maybe a sick leave certificate, but really it could be any sort of documentation that needs to be uploaded by the employee. So essentially we've got the ability here through the chatbot to actually talk to, guide the user there, say, now please upload the document, put the details in there, and then using the actual logic and the AI and ML, actually go and try and match up all the details and the patterns there of the data there, and to try to find some inconsistencies, or maybe some errors there, or maybe a sort of mismatch there as such. So essentially is another way that we can use the tools to actually try and minimize errors going into the system there. So I think that that's certainly 3 of those examples that I come up with there with those new technologies, Rohit, and I hope I've sort of met the challenge there. But it certainly is, I'm seeing great, huge enablers there to start helping us improve accuracy and providing better insights. Thanks, Rohit.
Thanks for bringing sci-fi to reality, James, and I think you brought it very effectively. And I think the last example that you showed definitely could be one of the levers to optimize the workforce, because if I can just take example of India, the tax proof validation is a huge exercise, and towards the year end, you would hire additional workforce to make sure that those validations are done, physical verifications are done.
Correct.
And if you have a tool like this which automatically compares all the validations and does the job for you just on a WhatsApp message, I think it certainly can improve the utilization of workforce very well. Um, Looks like we have some more questions coming up, and I'll pick another question by Mr. Kalyan Kumar. And the question is around the integration with external statutory authorities, where filing and payments happen seamlessly. Interesting one, and I guess, James, again, you are the best person to answer this. It's largely around the STP and payday filing capabilities. So, a quick view from you on there would help.
Yeah, so it certainly does depend on the various organisations. If I take some examples here in my local area, here we've got the single touch payroll or the payday filing, and absolutely that's one of our requirements, and we fulfil that. And in fact, we actually go one step further and actually build the gateway, because a lot of these government systems are starting to provide that next level of complexity where you've got to talk directly to their systems, updated in an XML format, and actually get the sort of feedback back. So absolutely, we do that sort of talking to systems in real time, and to actually build the actual gateway into our systems. So thanks, Rohit.
Thanks, James. And I think the answer is yes. We do have integrations for filing seamlessly, and there is no manual intervention required. It's seamlessly connected to the payroll. We saw some of the innovations around. All right. There is yet another question on Australia again, JobKeeper wage, and it's by Mr. Vijay Varghese. Maybe I'll throw this again at you, James. What sort of support is proposed during JobKeeper wage subsidy program with Australia?
I guess support from the key aspect is the government trying to keep businesses going and try to keep people with some money coming in to help them tide them over this very difficult times at the moment. And the level of support here has been quite extensive, and certainly we're yet to sort of find out and see where the end game is yet. So I think that they're still expecting some more tweaks to this as well coming down the track.
All right. Thanks, James. All right. So I guess we did see a lot of visibility and automation on the payroll administrator or the core payroll users. Another important element in the entire pandemic situation was the employee engagement aspect of it. And again, due to sort of help desk being there in thin capacity, that also took a little bit of beating out there. So, Shruthi, maybe my question would be to you now on how do you think the employee engagement can be sustained with an automated tool and not relying completely on help desks out there? Any view that you can provide out there?
Sure, Rohit. So, in fact, over the last few years, we've been heavily focusing on providing frictionless employee experience through a concept called Zero UI. The idea here was to allow employees to sort of decide which channel of communication they would want to use to access the system. And as a result of that, we currently support our self-service through multiple channels like chatbots, we have a voice assistant, mobile app, email, and of course the traditional desktop portal as well. So as part of the Zero UI initiative, we launched Ramco Chia, which is our enterprise chatbot, to serve as a digital assistant for our employees. So Ramco Chia today supports close to 30 plus functions across self-service, answering payroll queries, and also answering HR policy queries.
That sounds interesting. So, chatbots would probably do away with some of the responsibilities of the help desk. Is that what I hear you say? And generally, I would also turn into the help desk to sort out some of my payslip issues. So, is that
Absolutely.
something that can be taken care?
Yeah, so indeed, a lot of us have been reaching out to HR, but that's where it all started, right? So we realized that almost 70% of employee queries are generally related to payroll, and they can be automated using chatbots, because if you look at it, the data is all already in the system. So that's when we enhanced our chatbot to sort of address all these pay related queries. And post that, we observed that a lot of reduction took place in the time that HR has been spending in responding to all of these queries. So let me just show you a few use cases here. So this one, for instance, is a support bot. So what you're looking at right now is an employee from Singapore who's actually trying to query the CPF calculation for last month. So if you look at it, it's absolutely seamless. There's no human intervention, right? The chatbot picks up the context and immediately replies what is based on what is being asked. So there is a lot of country specific context to this as well. So if you look at Australia, this would be a superannuation. If you look at Philippines, it would be social security, maybe a PF for India. So depending on where the employee belongs to, it will basically pick up the country context. So the next example that you see here is the employee asking for a comparison between the current pay and a previous pay. It could just be the last month or any other month for that matter. And you can see how the bot is sort of showing variances across pay elements. So the employee can basically choose to look at whichever variance they are looking for. So that's the idea, Rohit, being around, making it frictionless and trying to sort of remove or do away with the HR intervention that is traditionally, noticed here. And just to highlight another point, this was on Microsoft Teams, but Chia is also available on a lot of other platforms like WhatsApp, Skype. We have it on WeChat, used a lot in China, and Facebook Messenger. So most of the commonly used platforms, we already have this up and running.
Well, looks like Shruti, a lot of your questions are getting answered by the bot. Does it also answer what increment are you getting next year?
Very soon it will.
Yeah, hoping to do that. All right. Next couple of questions coming in, and I see a question by Mr. Anand Arora. Can we analyze the difference in current payout versus last month with reasons in the pay register? Shruti, maybe you can take that question and give your response out here.
Sure. Yes, the differences in payroll are typically shown up in what we call a payroll variance report. So this typically brings out the variances and as a default compares the current pay cycle with the previous pay cycle and also highlights the differences, the reason for the differences. It's part of the payroll variance report.
I think there are two parts to this. Definitely, it's a part of the standard variance report, and also alluding to the discussion that James was doing around getting AI out here. That's also something that's going to automatically give you the insight on what the variances are, not only with respect to the last month, but also as compared to the historical data. And that's going to be an automatic input that will come through the AI engine, which is crawling on your historical data. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that response, Shruti. I'm moving on to another problem statement, and probably I'll bring this up to you again, Shruti. You talked about a whole lot of personalization coming in and WhatsApp answering most of your questions. How about I push the envelope further again? And if I'm a web application user, and not a chatbot user, I'm not comfortable with a chatbot. How do you bring in the element of personalization and knowing me inside the application itself? A quick view there would certainly help.
Sure. So again, I'll probably just give you a small story here, Rohit. So at some point in our journey, right, of enhancing the user experience, we realized that the system has to be intelligent and it should not be expecting users to key in data that can be, defaulted or predicted based on user patterns. And this is what led to us introducing a concept called UPE, which is Universal Personalization Engine. So this is a concept that will provide a personalized user experience, not just for employees, but also for core administrators. And this is irrespective of the channel of communication again. So let me just put it in simple words. It's like, a barista in your favorite coffee shop who knows your preference and serves you what exactly you're looking for even before you place an order. So let me just relate this concept with a few examples from an employee engagement perspective. So here's an employee who, very often travels from Chennai to, let's say, Malaysia almost every fortnight. So what we're trying to show you here is how mundane the activity is. Imagine there's no UPA around, and this is how laborious the process would look, right? The employee would actually have to key in every single field and get through all of this before he or she can submit the travel request. So on the contrary, what we are trying to show you now is how it looks when you actually have UPE introduced. So if you looked at what I just brought up, it's all defaulted. I've not done any data entry here. It's all right there. It picks up based on the frequency of the usage pattern of this employee and defaults everything. All the employee needs to do is just probably change his travel dates. And if this default needs to be changed, there's always a provision for employees to do that. They can still go and sort of change the defaults. So that's sort of the magic that UP brings in, because it picks based on user patterns. It doesn't. It's an intelligent system. It doesn't expect the user to key in what it's already aware of.
Right. Looks like the system knows you more than your spouse, Shruti. It's probably reading much more than it should.
Not sure if that's
Well, I'm excited. Anything else that you want to show?
yes. So there's more. I just wanted to hear from you before I show that. So let me show you another example here. So this is an example of an employee who's trying to apply for work from home. So we've all been locked down over the last few months, right? So typically when I, let's say, have to apply work from home, even in this case, that's what the employee is trying to do, right? It's not the first time. We've been doing it maybe once a month. So again, the system picks up these patterns. Here it is based on recency. So it picks up the pattern, it knows the user has been applying for work from home as a pattern, and then just prompts, defaults all of that. So all the employee needs to do is just change the dates maybe and just go ahead with it. So this is based on recency, and the previous example that we saw was based on frequency. So the engine as such can be configured to handle these kind of variations depending on the use case.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shruti. This was really enlightening. And I'm looking forward to getting more use cases around the personalization aspect. So let me move on to the next set of challenges that I've been hearing again. And this was around the payroll cycle times. And as you all know, payroll cycle time has always been under stress because the data would come at the last hour. We would still want to incorporate all of the data inside the calculation, and still hope that we are able to pay the employees exactly on time and completely accurately. And with the COVID situation coming in, I think that entire pressure on the payroll cycle time started crunching from not only days, but in some cases even hours. And that really put the spotlight back on the payroll administrators out there. So, question to you, James. What do you think automation can help with on this area? And how can we still ensure that despite the last moment inputs, we are still able to incorporate that in the calculation and run our payroll on time?
Yeah, absolutely, Rohit. And I think this is certainly unprecedented times, and with all the changes, you have to be able to process them in a very, very timely way. Then I think that part of that whole story towards our digital transformation there is really starting to have a more what I would call an integrated world to actually get information more in real time. And I think this is really an important factor to be able to reduce those cycles time, getting information more readily up to date, when you need it, etc. And that really is probably the fundamental backbone towards helping you to create a far more accurate and timely payroll processing as well. And I think that really what I'm sort of seeing out there at the moment in my conversations and engagements there is really that need for extensive integrations. And I think this is transferred into actually what we're actually seeing out there in the field too. We've actually built extensive integrations into some of the leading HR platforms out there, Workdays, the Oracle, SuccessFactors, and I think this is just the driver for those changes there. We actually need to provide that information, the connection between core HR, payroll, leave and attendance, and finance, really in a very, very timely fashion there. And I think that this is also imperative, supporting that what I would say is what's called a best practice model of providing a single source of entry, a single source of truth, and you only actually enter the data in once. And I think this is all contributing towards that sort of very, very powerful mechanism to make sure we actually can reduce those cycle times.
Awesome. James,
Thank you.
I do hear that out, and I think it's important for the payroll to have very tight integration with the core HR modules. If it's not on a single code base, it's not a single platform, then I guess there has to be very tight integrations or connector that has to be existing. And I think something that's what you were touching also, and I think we at Ramco have connectors with Oracle and Workday and other leading players. I think that probably makes the life simpler because the data
Absolutely.
is then transmitted automatically rather than having to do it manually.
Correct.
But my second part of the question, James, I would still want you to bring focus there, is the last minute data that's coming from the employees. Is there something that we can do out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think this has been one of those perennial problems that in all your best efforts, all your best planning, we're still waiting for those last entries from employees and maybe last transactions, etc. So really, what can we do out there to actually start to minimize that and to actually in sort of add another layer of those improvements there as well. So really, what I'm sort of putting it down there and putting it down to is really any smart system out there should be able to alert and prompt the user to actually fill in their timesheets and actually on time and actually defaulting in the information there. Make it as simple and easy as possible for those employees to be able to do this. So you actually remove those excuses. I know I can't do my timesheet, I haven't got enough time. But you need to make it as simple and as easy for them as possible. Push it in their face, give them the minimum data to enter and say, right, do it now. So really it's about that being able to give that sort of mechanism to the users to be able to make sure that those timesheets get in a very, very timely fashion. I've actually got a quick video on this as well, what this might look like. So here, for instance, you've got an Outlook, you've got an emails coming there. It tells you essentially you need to book your timesheet by a certain time, by a certain date. All the user has to do there is simply just put in this case here, it's going to default in the actual what project details you're working on. And all they have to do is hit the actual number of hours, hit the send button, and it's done. It flows straight into the system, nothing else required, zero log into the system. So, and that is certainly, I think, hopefully a huge step forward towards helping that process.
Sounds really exciting. And again, James, this is yet another level of personalization, where I think the system is understanding from your patterns and trying to understand what projects are you working on. And I believe if you are working on multiple projects, the system will prompt you to fill timesheets on all these multiple projects. Correct, James? And
Correct,
all you have to do.
absolutely. So if you've got one project, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is there, exactly the same concept applies.
All right. So you've taken away the excuse from people to not fill timesheets because they don't have time.
Absolutely. No more
Right.
excuses.
So I guess that certainly looks interesting. We have a couple of questions coming up here. So let me just pick some of them. There's a question by Mr. Vijay Babu. Is there any feasibility to provide an option to employees through ESS portal to understand how the system computes tax and social contributions with respect to each country legislation as per the income earned, which surely reduce the query volumes as well? Certainly an interesting question, and I think Shruthi touches upon the subject that you were talking about. Would you want to feel this?
Sure. So yes, so I think what we have is a simulation where you can actually ask the bot. While we do have a standard tax simulation or a tax calculator feature in the desktop version for self-service, this can also be done over chatbot. So you can ask the bot, how does my tax look like, right? And it'll basically simulate and show you what could be the outcome once the payroll is processed.
Thanks for that, Shruti. Just one more question that I would want to take up, and there's a question by Mr. Sarvanan R. And he's saying, just wanted to check, is the chatbot available in WhatsApp or in Ramco portal? So, Shruti, your views.
Sure. So the chatbot is available on multiple platforms, as I mentioned, WhatsApp, Skype, Teams, Line, and WeChat. But the portal is more of a self-service, the traditional self-service. So bot is not actually in the portal; it's on the publicly accessible platforms like the ones that I just mentioned.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Shruti. So that probably means that the choice of platform lies with the user community, and they can use either of those platforms. Shruthi, one last question to you. I'm sure we're running against time. How about the time and attendance management system, and how's that evolving in the current pandemic situation? What's your quick take there?
So, quite different from the traditional attendance capture options. We've been offering facial recognition based attendance for almost 2 years now, and we just recently added breath analyzer also to this. However, in the current pandemic situation, what we've done is, went a step further and added thermal scanning and to our facial recognition feature. So, what this means is organizations can now manage employee attendance through this thermal scanning plus facial recognition, which also has a provision to detect the masks as well. So, our unique value proposition here is that it's tightly integrated with our time and absence module. So, if there's an employee who's denied access because of high temperature, then the system would automatically alert the manager, and it would also apply leave automatically. So that's the what we've been doing in the current situation. But let me just show you a very quick video here. So if you look at what we're seeing here, this lady is basically going through a thermal scan, and is then also trying without the mask. But then the system prompts the use of mask. Then she puts the mask on back again, and is then allowed entry into the office. So basically, as I said, it's a combination of scanning the temperature as well as detecting the mask. And if you've noticed, this entire experience has been touchless, right? So there's absolutely no contact, and this can be linked with turnstile and IoT enabled doors also.
Very good. Nice to hear that. And I'm sure while we are adopting this, the other organizations would also be keen to look at it. Well, the interesting discussion is just going on, and we have so many questions coming in from the audience as well. Unfortunately, the clock is staring at us, and my organizers are giving me an indication that we need to wrap up. So, on that note, thanks everyone for being on the call. And I think what we could really take away from this is the cycle times are getting reduced, are getting crunched. We also have the cost pressures building up on how we optimize cost around the payroll, and how we further provide visibility to both the payroll users as well as the payroll administrators. And I guess the levers around technology would play a big and pivotal role in shaping up the transformation for payroll in near future. Um, Please do stay tuned for such sessions to be coming in from Ramco side. And it was lovely having you all of you here. And thanks for being such an engaged audience here. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Rohit.
Thanks everyone.